My name is Evan, and I want to tell you something about this morning. This is a learning experience. So what I'd like you to do is say after me, I'm a spiritual being, always in the process of becoming. Every moment, every person I meet, every situation in my life affords me the opportunity to learn and grow. I come to this moment knowing nothing, for it has never happened before. In this state of openness, I am saying, feed me. Say it again, feed me. Our first speaker today is a wonderful presenter who learned much of what she knows about business and other things from growing up as the youngest of 10 children in Hawaii, differentiating herself in the shadows of 9 siblings required her to develop and use the sales and negotiating skills that she is famous for today. Her name is McCarthy. She has become the quintessential serial entrepreneur starting at the age of 6, where she got her first lesson in food inventory shrinkage as her brothers literally ate her profits. Since 1982, May has used metaphysical, spiritual practices to grow 7 successful businesses in a variety of industries, with the largest having more than 100 million in annual revenues. May is a member of the Center for Spiritual Living in Seattle and has been a grateful student of Ernest Holmes, Emma Curtis Hopkins, Florence Shin, and other New Thought teachers like the Reverend Sheila McKeithen, our president. And for those of you who don't know, as my religious leader, she's my pope. May now travels the world on purpose to elevate prosperity and freedom for all, and shares spiritual success techniques through her best-selling book, The Path to Wealth. May is here today to emphasize the importance of connecting with spirit as your source of intelligence and abundance to achieve greater levels of success, happiness, and freedom. Please stand and help me welcome May McCarthy.
Oh, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
That was wonderful. Okay, I have to tell you, I am spiritually filled up. This is an amazing conference. I can't believe you do this every year. Wow. Wow. Oh. Before we get started, can I just ask you a few questions? Does that be okay? All right, so the first question is, how many of you would like to have perfect health, where every cell in your body is filled with healed light? Yeah? Okay, good. Would anybody like to have harmonious relationships with family, friends, your community, your coworkers, and every bit of creation in our world? Excellent. Now, would anybody like to have more money and the freedom to do whatever you want to do whenever you want to do it? Yeah? Excellent. I'm in the right place. I'm so happy. I actually love to take notes at conferences, but what I find is that when I take a note, I can't hear what the next thing is that's being said. So I just decided to create a whole page of notes for you, and you should have gotten a handout. Yes, if you didn't get a handout, please raise your hand, and one will be brought to you. There's someone that needs one here in the front, 2 that are needed here in the front. Great. Well, over 35 years ago, my mother, who is a devout Catholic, who converted from Seventh-day Adventist, gave me my first metaphysical book. It was a book titled The Game of Life and How to Play It, published in 1920s. Yes. Somehow she knew that her 10th child needed this information. So I took that book with me off to college. I left Hawaii and went off to college, and I read and practiced the principles outlined in this book. Oh my God, and I mean OMG. I was able to finish school with honors in 3 years and grow a company with 250 employees at the same time. This is all because of the principles that we learn in centers and churches like this. Well, I found that this helped me to achieve all of the goals that I wanted to have. And I follow my sister, who's a reverend at one of the Centers for Spiritual Living in Seattle, and I pretty much followed her. I went to Catholic church and hung out with my mom. I helped other people and went to their churches, and I followed my sister to Center for Spiritual Living, and the spiritual leadership asked me a question. They said, May, what are you doing to be so successful? You know, we don't have tithers at the level that you tithe come across very often, and we're curious, what are you doing to be so successful? Honestly, I thought it was a trick question. So I gingerly replied and said, well, I'm doing what you're teaching here. Isn't that right? They said, no, honey, you're doing something different. What are you doing? And I said, oh, you want to know what my daily practice is? Well, you see, I'm a self-proclaimed efficiency expert. I hate to waste time. And I have this knack of being able to see a problem or take a complicated idea and boil it down into something that's really easy to understand and to implement. I have trained thousands of employees over my career. Customer service people to do their jobs better. Sales people to come up with a fair exchange of value between them and customers. Executive leaders so that they could accomplish their goals to bless with success their coworkers, their customers, their suppliers and vendors, and all in our world. So I've taught this, and I decided that I would boil down the spiritual principles that are taught in New Thought metaphysics and create a very efficient daily practice. Well, the spiritual leadership asked me, would you please create a workshop and teach it to our congregation? So after about the 500th person had gone through the workshop with good success, I was asked to write a book. Now, I'm from Hawaii, which means we had a slang language in Hawaii, and I was very good at using the slang. I also went to a public school, and out of the United States, Hawaii is ranked, I think, 50 out of 50 for public schools. I went to college and took English as a second language. Not because I wasn't good at English, it was because the waves were really good during the SAT test and I had to leave and go surfing instead. But I had this idea that I couldn't write a book, that I wasn't smart enough, that I didn't have the eloquence and the capability of teaching anyone anything through a book. Now, I write all the copy, all the advertising, everything for my companies to take complicated ideas and make them really simple to understand. And God said, you know what, just do it. I'll write it through you. So I did. And I'm happy to tell you that my book, which I'm sorry to say is sold out in the bookstore here, but hopefully you can get a copy if you don't have one. My book, The Path to Wealth, is what came from my writing up this spiritual practice. And interestingly enough, this is a spiritual book. but it made it to number 2 on Amazon's bestseller list in personal finance. It's not a personal finance book. It's a spiritual book. But what that's telling me is that our society is waking up. Business leaders are looking for a way to bring God into their businesses. And somehow that little bridge is something I've been called to do, is to help people understand how they can bring God into their business. I have started and grown a number of different companies. And I decided that I was going to be very intentional in bringing God into my business. And I, as a CEO, surround myself in my C-suite with people whose advice I value. I have a chief operating officer who advises us on the operations of our company, a chief financial officer who advises us on the financial temperament of our company and the things that we should do to be more profitable and more efficient. A chief marketing officer, a chief information officer, and I decided that I would bring God into my business and give God a title. And I call it the Chief Spiritual Officer. Well, what was really fun about that is I actually decided to put the CSO at the top of my organizational chart so that I, as the CEO, reported to it. Can you imagine what my employees said? Who's a CSO? Is it a man? Is it a woman? Do we get to meet them? And my response was simply this. The CSO is a guiding principle. There are going to be times in your career where you find that there's a challenge. And I need you to not focus on the challenge. I need you to focus rather on what you want the outcome to be, knowing that your CSO can guide you towards achieving that outcome. So if you've got a problem with a customer, what's your life going to be like when you've solved that problem? How are you going to feel? How's your customer going to feel? Is your company going to do? So ask yourself those questions. What do I want to accomplish? What do I want the outcome to be? And thank the CSO for delivering that. And what you'll find is that our company will be a miracle-making company. We will have things happen and insights that will come and ideas and abilities to serve each other and our customers and our suppliers and our vendors and our world in remarkable ways that are beyond your rational thought. And that's going to be from the CSO. So call me up, send me a text, send me an email, let me know when that happens. Well, it was no surprise to me. I got texts, emails, and phone calls every day. The CSO was showing up in our employees' lives on a daily basis, and we were competing against 3 Fortune 20 companies and became market share leader very quickly. That's because of the CSO. When we sold our company to a $5.5 billion company, they asked me who the CSO was. That was a really fun conversation. That was a great conversation. I am confident that the CSO has been responsible for my success. I am confident that God has been responsible for my success. And not only has God helped me in my finances, but God has helped me in other goals in my life as well. In 1994, one of my goals was for good health. That should be a goal for all of you, is to have and maintain good health. And so I happened to be in a business meeting, and I got this picture of my sister's face in my mind's eye. Anybody have a thought that just flies into your head out of the blue? Yeah, so I had this picture of her face in my mind's eye, and I knew that my CSO was telling me I needed to contact her. So I happened to be close to her office, and I just decided to stop by. She was so happy to see me. She had a computer problem that I could fix for free. as I'm sitting there at her desk and she is, having a conversation with me and I'm helping her with her problem, she noticed this little tiny dot on the outside of my right leg. And she asked me what it was. Now, you heard from the introduction that I was raised in Hawaii. And I'm fair. I have a lot of freckles. A lot of freckles. So I told her it was a freckle. I mean, I'd had that spot forever. It never grew. It was always the same size. Teeny, teeny, teeny little tiny spot. She said that she didn't feel that it was a freckle. And she asked me to see her dermatologist to have it looked at. Now I'm thinking, it's nothing to worry about. And I was just about to dismiss her fear. And my gut hurt. How many of you have felt your gut hurt before? Yeah, God's trying to get your attention. Yeah, and God was trying to get mine. And I knew, having practiced this a while, that meant I needed to heed her advice. So I made the appointment. Now at the doctor's office, he said, May, it's nothing. It's too small. It can't possibly be anything for you to worry about. You can go home. Honey, don't worry. And I was just about to get dressed and go home, and my gut hurt again. Now, many of us grow up with lots of very strong beliefs, and I had one that I was pushing up against when my gut was hurting. I knew God was trying to tell me something. But as the last of 10 children, with a father who's a surgeon, and I don't know about you, but surgeons are kind of right here at the same level as God in their mind. I mean, they are all-knowing, all-powerful authority. And my dad told all of his 10 children that doctors knew more than we did. That if a doctor gave you a diagnosis or gave you some advice, you were supposed to take it. Heaven forbid you question a doctor. So many of us come to this stage in life where we have some strong beliefs that are running underneath our consciousness. And here I am with my gut hurting and this belief. But God has never steered me wrong. Never once. So I said, Doctor, I am so sorry. I don't mean to be disrespectful. But you got to cut that off. I came back a week later after having one stitch. It was that small. One stitch put into my leg. I came back a week later to a diagnosis of cancer. Malignant melanoma, Clark's level 3. The CSO saved my life. Now, how many of you know the healing power of God? Yeah, right. We hear lots of stories. Maybe we ourselves have been healed miraculously in an unusual way. We have such strong faith regarding the power of healing. We have such strong confidence. I mean, I can know for you that you are whole and complete. Every cell in your body is filled with the wonderful design of God, and you are healthy and healed, and you will always be that way. I know that. I know that in every bit of my body. You all do too. But why don't we have the same level of confidence for our finances? For our relationships? For a world that works for everyone? For our recreation? For our fulfilling and satisfying work, where we use our skills and talents in remarkable and wonderful ways to bless everyone related to our work? Why don't we have the same level of confidence? There are other people that do. You know, God provides us messaging through intuition, thoughts, gut instincts, messages through other people, signs. I even saw some signs on a billboard once that were for me. Honestly. We get messages all day long, and we can enable those messages to be more obvious and in greater frequency by doing a few things. And I'm not the only one. How many of you know the name Bill Gates? Okay. He's from my town, Seattle. Bill Bill Gates, depending upon what day you measure his net worth, he is either the wealthiest man in the world or the second. It's a fight between he and Jeff Bezos of Amazon. They're going back and forth right now. But he said often you have to rely on intuition. And Steve Jobs from Apple, he said you actually have to have courage to follow your heart and intuition. Kind of like the courage of going up against an old belief and being disrespectful to a doctor. Yeah, you have to have courage. And Oprah Winfrey, clearly one of the most influential women of our time, has said, she has said that she has listened to that still small voice of intuition her whole life. And the only time she's made mistakes, when she didn't listen, right? So if Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, Oprah Winfrey, Steven Spielberg, Thomas Edison, Dr. Wayne Dyer, and hundreds of other people say that relying on this spiritual intuition is a tool for their success, why aren't we all using it? Why aren't we all using it? Well, I think many of us just aren't taught to. And thank God, praise God, that there are organizations, New Thought organizations, that are teaching these principles like your churches. Yeah. Thank God. But most of society isn't taught to rely on that. When we have a question about anything, what do? Google it. Right. We go out and get information, get lots of information, and then we analyze it, measure it, evaluate it, think about every possible step that we could take. And we even go one step further. And we think about every possible outcome that could come from every possible step that we take, right? And if we don't like any of them, what do? Nothing. We do nothing. You're not allowed to do nothing anymore. You know, this is not a new human condition. Albert Einstein actually referred to this many, many times. He said that we have this intuitive mind that's a sacred gift. And we have this rational mind, which is a faithful servant. It will do whatever we tell it to do. But somehow in our society, we've decided to honor this servant. And we've forgotten the gift. So I'm here today to help you to remember what you already know. And that is that this wonderful spiritual intuition, this wonderful messaging from God to guide you and direct you in all areas of your life is available and is a wonderful gift. And there are three main points to recognize, which are on the front side of your sheet. Does everybody have a sheet? Okay, so there are three main points. The first point is to recognize that intuition messaging from God is always available to you. Okay, it's always there. And it always wants to help you to achieve your goals and to keep you safe. But it stands to reason that you actually have to have some goals, okay? You actually have to have something for it to help you with. And it has to be worded in such a way that it will stimulate intuition and your subconscious to help you. Let me give you an example. How many of you have ever had the goal, wait, let me rephrase that. How many of you know someone who has had the goal to lose 10 pounds? They say, I want to lose 10 pounds. Okay? Well, let's just think about that goal for a second. Okay? The goal is to be wanting to lose 10 pounds. To be wanting to lose. Haven't they already reached it? Aren't they already wanting to lose? Why do you need God's help with that? You already achieved that goal. So what you need to do is act as if, all right? We all know that wonderful story in the Bible where Jesus says, see the harvest. See it already completed. Imagine what your life is going to be like already reaping the harvest. And this is long before the field's even planted. You need to do the same thing with your goals. Thank you, God, that I am physically fit, trim, toned, energetic, in a healthy, pain-free body that is eternally youthful and increasingly more beautiful. It's my goal. You can call it whatever your goal is, but that's mine. So word it as though it's already completed with gratitude. And what that will do is stimulate and activate this wonderful messaging to be more obvious to you. You'll notice it in the midst of billions of pieces of data that are coming at you every single day. You'll notice the messaging that's consistent with that goal. The second point is that you can partner with God. And in any partnership, each of you will have clear roles and responsibilities, right? How many of you have ever worked for a living? Would you ever consider going into somebody else's area of your company that you know nothing about? Sit down at their desk and start trying to do their job for them? Then stop trying to do God's. Your job is to figure out what it is that you want, okay? Describe it with gratitude as though it's already completed. God's job, your CSO's job, is to create the path for you to get there and to give you one step to take at a time. Now, I choose to give God a title, CSO, because this is a partnership. So I have a space there on your form where you can actually write a name for that ultimate advisor characteristic of spirit. Now, I am not saying that there's any separation, all right? We are all one. We are part of the one. That's it. But we do have different names for different characteristics of God. We call it Holy Spirit, the Christ, God, infinite intelligence, all-knowing universal power. In my workshops, I ask people to choose a name as well. There was even one guy chose the name Fred. I don't know why, but apparently Fred represents an ultimate advisor characteristic of God for him. So whatever name you choose, write that down on your sheet right now and turn to your partner and let him know what you chose. So in this partnership, you have different roles and responsibilities. Your job is to figure out what it is that you want, describe it with gratitude as though it's already completed. God's job, your CSO's job, is to create the path for you to get there and give you one step to take at a time along that path. You can either take the step, kind of like seeing that picture of my sister's face in my mind's eye. I could choose to contact my sister or not. So you either take the step or you ask for another lead. You ask for another message. And I want you all to try this. Look straight out, tilt your head slightly up, and say, God, I need another lead. I want so much to make it more difficult than that, because then I think you'll do it. But it's really not. It's that simple. If you don't understand something and you need additional clarification, you're not sure if that gut instinct is from God. You're not sure if that thought is something you should take action on. You're a little scared, you're unsure, you're worried, you're anxious. Just ask for another lead. But don't do nothing. Let me give you an example of how this works. In one of my previous companies, when I start a company, I travel about 150, 200,000 miles a year. I'm considered a road warrior. And I had a goal for one of my young companies to have a minimum or more of $400,000 in revenue by a particular period of time. That would afford me to get more employees and more resources and serve our customers in a greater way. So I happen to be in Cleveland, and I have a routine. I get off the plane, yay, Cleveland. I get off the plane, I get my bags, I get my rental car, and I drive to my hotel and drop everything off. Then I get back in my car, and I go to the closest grocery store that sells protein shakes and water and things that I need for my stay. So I'm in the car, ready to go to the grocery store that I know is 5 minutes away. I've been to this town before. I have a great customer there. And I know that there's a grocery store 5 minutes away. And I hop in the car, and I get this really strong idea about a grocery store that I know that's 15 minutes away. That doesn't make any sense. And guess what? Here comes my rational mind to tell me so. May. What are you thinking, girl? It's 9 o'clock at night here in Cleveland. You shouldn't be driving across town in the dark to go to a grocery store when there is a perfectly good grocery store 5 minutes away. Oh, and let me remind you, young lady, your appointment's at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. That's 5 o'clock in the morning, Seattle time. You're going to be way too tired and probably screw up, so you better get a good night's sleep tonight. How many of you can identify with that? Yeah. So this is when you figuratively stomp your foot and you say, CSO, if that message was from you, I need another lead. That allows your intuitive mind to chime in. Well, it's true, May. It's 9 o'clock at night, but it's only 6 o'clock in the evening in Seattle. It's too early for you to go to sleep anyway. And who knows? Maybe everything you want will be on sale at the other store. Just make the drive. So I did. As I'm walking into the grocery store, who should be walking out at exactly the same time? But a man who represented a giant potential customer. I met him 6 months before at a trade show. He was not returning any of my phone calls or emails for an appointment. Hi, so nice to see you. And we strike up this great conversation. And he asks me about the growth of our company and who was I in town to see and how long was I going to be in town for. And I'm thinking to myself, as long as it takes to get an appointment with you. But I mentioned I'd be here for a few days, and he hands me a cell phone number. It says, call my office tomorrow morning. We'll get you on the schedule. We want to hear what you have to present. That meeting led to another meeting and a contract worth over $500,000. God gave me an idea to drive across town at 9 o'clock at night in Cleveland. Now let me ask you all a question. Maybe you went to the same school that I did, where we're taught to have a goal and to come up with little steps that we can take to achieve our goals. Yeah. How many of you, in all honesty, would say, okay, first step, drive across town at 9 o'clock in Cleveland? God is the God of miracles. That's why these stories about Red Seas parting, food falling from heaven, water coming out of rocks, are meant to encourage us. This is the way our life is supposed to be. If we partner with God. If we partner and trust. So again, you either take the step, or if you're unsure, just ask for another lead. You will get one. You will get one. The third point that's listed here on your sheet is that in order for this partnership to develop, you have to commit to meeting every single day with your partner. Now in business, we know that holding regular goal planning meetings is very important for us to achieve our goals. The same is true in achieving your goals in every area of your life. You have to commit to meet with your CSO. And I'm going to go over the 7 steps of a daily practice that I use, and hopefully it will prompt you to either give it a try or modify it and make something that's your own. But you've got to meet with God every single day to go over what it is that you would like to experience in your life, in all areas of your life. Not just your finances, but every major area of your life. Your finances, your health, your relationships, the use of your skills and talents in remarkable and fulfilling and satisfying ways. Your recreation, so that you are balanced and refreshed. Your spiritual, your deepening spiritual connection. How many of you have ever heard the phone ring and you knew who it was? You probably have a relationship with that person, right? You probably, know each other really well. Well, the same thing is going to happen as you meet with God every day in this practice. You're going to find that you're going to know when God's voice is coming through loud and clear in a variety of ways. And probably the best part of this whole relationship is when you reach a goal and you turn around and look at the path that you were led on. I'm telling you, Red Sea's parting, food falling from heaven, water coming out of rocks. You are going to crack up because you would have never dreamed up that path to achieve what you want. It's uncanny and a whole lot of fun. So now what I'd like to do is just very briefly go through the daily practice. That's on the other side of your sheet. Does everybody have one of these? If you don't, raise your hand. One will be brought to you. And we'll just very quickly go through these. Now, I have 7 steps that I outline in my book as a daily practice. And the first 4 steps are actually your morning meeting with your CSO. You're going to need to set aside 25 to 30 minutes. And for those of you that say, oh my gosh, I get up so early, you're going to now get up earlier. Okay? Let me tell you why it's important to do this first thing in the morning. Because you want to program your brain for success. You want to take control of what you are going to be intentional about for the day. Not CNN, not Fox News, not the newspaper, not the world that's going on around you, but you and God get to decide what sets the tone for your day. In your meeting, you're going to create a comfortable space that's not your bed. You'll go to that space. It could be a comfortable chair, a couch, a table. You can wear your pajamas, that's fine. But you need to move out of your bed because what we're doing is programming our brain for success. We are telling our rational mind that we are absolutely serious about achieving these things, about partnering with God to live the life of our desires. So just the physical act of moving to a different space in your home will help with that. You're also going to need some tools. You're going to need a very uplifting book that puts you into a receptive mood. You're going to need a notepad or a spiral notebook or a journal. And you're going to need a writing instrument, a pen, a pencil. Okay? And you'll sit down and have your morning meeting. The first step is to read something for 5 to 10 minutes that is uplifting and puts you into a receptive mood. I find that short stories about ordinary people having extraordinary experiences as a result of God operating in their life are perfect for this step. I mentioned earlier my favorite book, which is the Florence Scovel Shinn's Game of Life. But anything by Catherine Ponder or Reverend Sheila's book, 12 Steps to Your Healing, any of those kinds of books will put you into that receptive mood that says, wow, what God has done for others, God can do for me and more. Okay? The second step is to write out a gratitude letter to your CSO. Dear God, Jesus, Holy Spirit, CSO, thank you. Thank you for these things that I have. My family, my health, my cat. And thank you for these things that I want, but remember, you want to word them as though you already have them. Thank you for my good health. Thank you for my wonderful financial freedom with a minimum or more of X number of dollars to use and enjoy, to afford all of my living, giving, and entertainment expenses and more. Thank you for my right relationships that are harmonious and living in a world that works for everyone, where we treat each other with respect and we all live in safety and harmony. Thank you for what it is that you want, but describe it with gratitude as though it's already completed, right? Words are really, really important. Very, very important. The third step is to speak. Speak what you wrote out loud with emotion. Any school teachers out there? Okay. All right, so school teachers will tell you that when you read something out loud, it anchors the meaning more fully within you. When I read business contracts or legal documents out loud, I understand them more fully. I can hear where there's something wrong, right? So when you speak it out loud with emotion, you are anchoring it more fully within you, but it's also a nice self-check that you're using the right words. When I was 19, going to college, I mentioned that I had a business with about 250 employees. And a lot of these employees were sales employees. And there was one, there was one sales employee who would jump into the middle of sales that other people had started, and she would finish them, and she would earn the commission. You can imagine all the other employees really complaining to me. So I used to say, please God, don't let this employee be a problem tonight. Guess what I got? More of the problem. Yeah, I was developing my enlightenment. And as soon as I would write that down and think about it, I realized I was praying for what I didn't want. And I had to shift my language and say, thank you, God. Thank you, CSO. Thank you, sweet Spirit, that all of our employees are working harmoniously together, and they collectively thrive and prosper, and so does our company, and we are able to serve our customers in more valuable and wonderful ways. As soon as I started to write that and read it out loud, it activated this wonderful law, this wonderful principle of God to guide me and direct me to achieve that. So speak your words out loud with emotion and hear to make sure that they're the right words, and if they're not, change them. The fourth step, this is the final step for your morning meeting. Okay, this is your morning goal planning meeting, is to use a technique that many professional athletes and musicians use. And that is to imagine. Close your eyes, and for about 5 minutes, pick one of your goals, maybe two. You don't have time for all of them. But see yourself in your mind's eye in the completed goal. You know, Jack Nicklaus is one of the greatest golfers of our time. And he said that he used to imagine every single shot that he took during a golf game, a competitive golf game, before he ever even went out and practiced. He would see himself lining up for the shot, hitting the ball, seeing it sail to exactly where he wanted it to go. And the next day when he would go out and play, he achieved that. If you talk to any great athlete, they will tell you that they set aside time every single day to do mental training. Well, your goals are that important. You living the life that you design is that important. Take the moment. If you struggle with seeing images, cut out a couple of pictures that are consistent with your goal. Look at that and then see yourself in that picture. And as soon as you can see your picture, make it fluid. And really describe what your life is like having already achieved the goal. So that's your morning meeting, and what I'd love for you to do, you'll see on your sheet, there's a little space where you can write out one of your goals. Describe it with gratitude as though it's already completed. Thank you, God, that I am perfectly healthy, with every cell in my body filled with healthy light. Thank you, God, that I am financially free and have all of the resources that I require, desire, and more to afford all of my living, giving, and entertainment expenses. Thank you so much, God, that I have harmonious and valuable relationships with my family, my friends, my community, and every bit of creation in my world. Whatever your goal is, go ahead and write that down. Then turn to your partner. Let them know what you wrote. Now, just one. I know you got a lot. It's really important for you to describe the outcome of your goal. And it has to be worded in such a way that's helpful to you. I knew a man who told me that his goal was that his Uncle Bob not be a pain in the butt at the family reunion. And I said, first of all, you can't have a goal like that that's about somebody else. You know, very consistent with this whole conference. You have to be the change that you want to see in the world. So describe your experience. So I asked him some questions. If your Uncle Bob wasn't a pain, what would your experience be like? Well, I'd have great relationships with the rest of my family. We'd have deep conversations. We'd have a harmonious and peaceful time together. I said, describe that. Be grateful for that. And I checked in with him after the family reunion, and that's exactly what he got. And he even went so far as to say he actually had a good time with his Uncle Bob. Imagine that. All right. So, steps 5 and 6 of the practice happen throughout the day. Step 5 is to expect and watch for leads. To expect and watch for messaging from your CSO, from God. And that's going to come in a variety of ways. Gut instincts, thoughts, signs, messages through other expressions of God, which you all are. Okay, so be on the lookout for them. You know, there's been a tremendous amount of brain research that's been done about positive expectations. And some of the best brain research was done at Cambridge University. And it showed that when you are in a state of positively expecting something to happen, your brain releases dopamine. And that's been shown to help us to see more possibilities and to focus more clearly. When you expect and watch for leads, you will find evidence of those leads showing up. Why? Because God's always sending us messages. We just get to tune in or not. And when you're positively expecting, you will notice them. I know a woman, who's a friend of mine, she was in her mid-50s when I met her. She had taken a workshop from me, and she said that her goal was to have a sound retirement plan. She didn't even have a savings account. But she wanted that, and she started to describe what her wonderful, secure life would be when she had this sound retirement plan. And she did her daily practice every day, had her goal planning meetings with God every day, and knew that this was going to happen. Then she had this thought of this woman. She hadn't talked to this woman in like 15 years. And she couldn't remember how the relationship ended. She didn't know, God, did I do something? Did it end badly or poorly? She couldn't remember. So she was kind of scared to just track this woman down and call her. Can any of you identify with that? Yeah. So she said, CSO, give me another lead. Well, over the next several days, this woman kept popping into her head. And finally, she couldn't disregard it. They kept showing up because she kept asking for leads. So she finally tracked down the woman and made the call. And the woman was so happy to talk to her. They caught up. It was a really pleasant conversation. And finally she asked my friend, what prompted you to call me? She says, well, I'm doing this new prosperity program, and it says if I have strong thoughts about people, I should contact them, and it's to help me achieve my goals, and so you came up, and I called you. So she was asked further, well, tell me about some of your goals. And she mentioned that she wanted a sound retirement plan. The woman just shouted for joy. She says, you're kidding me. Just last week, I put together a group of women. These are all women from finance, and we're going to meet every single month and talk about retirement and investing. Do you want to join our group? I checked in with my friend later. And I said, so how'd it go? How are the meetings going? And she said, you're not going to believe this. I mean, I tell you, I think I'm achieving a goal, and God always gives me more. Because not only did I get thousands and thousands of dollars worth of free advice to put together a plan and the assistance to figure out how I was going to fund it, but I met a whole group of women who I want to be like. They're achieving the kind of success that I want to have. I'm now seeing that that's possible. I've made what I want familiar to me, and now I have an even bigger goal. And they're going to help me. God totally outdid, once again, what I expected. You all have had that happen before. Yeah. God always delivers more. And step 6 is to celebrate. When you get a lead and you take a step, you need to celebrate. That woman celebrated with me when she told me about her success. I have a sister, Sharon, who's a reverend, and we office in the same office building that she owns. And so every now and then she'll come into my office and grab both my hands and jump up and down, and she celebrates. Yay! And we celebrate. And often I'll say, well, what are we celebrating? Expecting to hear that she got a lead, she took a step, and sometimes she says, I don't know, but it's on its way. But it's important to celebrate because it's helping your brain remember that you're accumulating proof that God's messages are getting through. I have another celebration partner that's in Louisiana, and I live in Seattle part of the year, and Texas the other part of the year. So we don't see each other face to face. But I'll text him the word celebrate, or he'll text me, celebrate. And then we reply with a time later in the day that we can get together on the phone or via Skype or something like that and celebrate. Now, this does not mean that we met our goal, although we do celebrate when we meet our goals. But it's a sign that we got a lead and we took a step. This is accumulating proof This is giving you confidence. And what is confidence? It's faith. Faith is confidence that God is operating in and through you, as you, and by you for your good. Okay? So celebrate. And then make a note. Make a note somewhere, because we're not always at our highest level of energy every day. Although sometimes I think, I am. But there are some days when we just are tired. Or maybe we got some bad news. Maybe somebody that we love is hurting. Maybe something's going on and we're just not at that high level of energy. This is a really good time to whip out your little notebook where you've written down how God has shown up in your life. And that way you can say, you know what, this too shall pass. Today's going to pass. Tomorrow's a new dawn. And I have proof here that God is always operating for my highest and best good. So note that demonstration. Note that step that you took. Note that courage that you had to take a step. And finally, the seventh step. The seventh step happens at night. And this is when you need to make room within you. You need to make room within you to receive more of what you want. Can you all see this bottle of water? It's full to the brim, right? Can I put any more water in it? No. I have to pour some out first, right? To make room. Well, the same is true with you. If we want to receive more good, and that's what I call your achieved goals, okay? Good. If you want to receive more good into your life, you have to make room within you to receive it. How many of you out there have ever been angry? Maybe worried? Okay? Yeah? So if I come up to you and you're in a state of anger or anxiety or worry, and I start to try and have a conversation with you, can you hear me? No. Can't. Well, guess what? You can't hear God either. So how do we get ourselves to a place of calm so that we can notice God's messaging? So we can notice those leads from our CSO? Well, we have to remove what's in us that's not serving us and put it over here on the side so that we have more room to receive what we want, right? Now, sometimes that little pile starts to stink and bubble up and it needs some attention. Don't worry, God will tell you if you need to give that pile some attention, okay? Your job is just to make room within you to receive what you want and to get yourself to a quiet place so that you can notice the messaging, okay? How do we do that? Well, that's step 7. And if any of you have a nightly routine before you go to sleep, for me, I brush my teeth, I wash my face, have some water. I also read additional books. This is when I really love to read. And right before you go to sleep, this is when step 7 happens. The first part of step 7 is